Hi! You clicked this video, so you want to start game development with Unity. That's great! You're in the right place, so sit down, take a breath. I'm going to make a series of videos about Unity and C#. Pay attention, this is not a tutorial series. I'm not going to tell you how to make a game step by step. But I want to share you some things that I have learned during the time. So I'll try to make you understand how to make games with logic. If you don't know who am I, welcome to niftyDuck. I am Tom, and I am a game developer just like you. Now let's discover how does this beautiful game engine work. First of all, I have to tell you that I'm using the Mac version of Unity, but it is the same of the other ones, so don't worry, this video is for all. May you have noticed that Unity is subdivided into parts. Unity Hub, that allows you to open whatever project you want, and Unity, the game engine that opens when you select a game in the hub. So open Unity Hub and click on the little arrow next to the new button. You have to select the version of Unity. I'll select the newest one. You will find all these templates, but for starting, I'll click the 3D one and then Create. First of all, if you don't see the same layout, click on the top right here to change it. As you can see, there are some types of layout, but for learning Unity, I advise you the default one. At the center of the screen, you can see the scene. The scene is where all the game objects are placed, and you can watch around by holding the right mouse. Here, you can find the game view, so when you play, this is what you will see. The scene is now empty, but what are these two icons? We can see them on the hierarchy. The hierarchy is this window on the left, and it shows us all the objects that are in our scene, in this case, the main camera. So, the object that permits us to see in the game. In fact, here on the bottom right, you can see what this camera is seeing, the game view. And this is the directional light that gives our scene the light, but for now it doesn't matter. Look, here on the right is appeared a bunch of complicated writings and buttons. What are them? This is the inspector, the window that shows us what the game objects are containing. As you can see, if we click on the camera, the inspector will show us some elements. Every element that you see here is called component. And you must remember this name because we'll return on it when we learn programming. The main camera is now containing three components: the transform component, the camera component, and the audio listener. On the bottom of Unity you can find the project. And I think you have already understood what it is. It contains the objects and the other stuff which is saved in your project file. At the moment you can see only the scenes folder, where is contained our scene. And that's because in some games there is more than one scene. For example, platform games where you change level. Another window in Unity is the console, where you will find all the warnings and messages, but we will see it in the next video. Anyway, there are other windows that you can find here. If you want to see them, go on the top here and click Window. But now let's talk about the components. Okay, we have seen that all objects have some components. I'm going to show you some of them. For starting, you have to click on the top left on this little button with the plus symbol. 3D Object Cube. If you want to view better the scene, you can hold right click and WASD to move, with Q and E to control the height. As you can see, the transform component of the object contains all the information about the position, the rotation, and the scale of our cube. To view it better, just click on the three dots here and reset. To reset the transform component. If we click the game view, we will see the cube in front of the camera. On the top left, we have some tools to control the scene. With the hand view, we can move around. With the move tool, we can move the object. And then we have the rotation tool and the scale one. But you can modify these three things in the inspector of the cube. So, this was the transform component. Let's see now the material. Okay, if you select the cube and you watch the inspector, you will notice that it has a component called Mesh Renderer. We have default material. Let's suppose that I want to change the material of the game object. In the project folder, right click, create, material, and I'm calling it test material. If you want to put this one in the cube, you can just drag and drop it. At the moment, you are not seeing anything different, and that's because the material is now with the default color. But the cube into the Mesh Renderer component contains now our test material. Okay, I want that this material becomes green, so I can just select it, click its white color and change it. Alright, now our cube is green. If you want, you can change other things, like the metallic, the smoothness or the emission. Other two fundamental components are the colliders and the rigid bodies. You can see here in the cube components that it has already a box collider. But what is a collider? Let's suppose that we are in an FPS game. When you shoot something, you're not hitting directly the object, but you're hitting some invisible colliders, because the game engine doesn't recognize if you're hitting the rendering model. So, our cube's box collider makes Unity recognize what parts of the model do we want that collide with other game objects. To see how this game object collides with other ones, create a new 3D object, plane, and let's put it under the cube. The plane is made by a mesh collider. That is just like the box collider, but it automatically takes the shape of the object. I don't advise you to put a mesh collider in a complicated object, because it will take you a lot of memory. I'm creating now, for example, a 3D sphere. If you notice, it has a sphere collider. And let's put it above the cube. If you start the game, you won't see anything special. And that's because our objects are not currently made to move. And here comes another fundamental component, the rigid body. A rigid body allows you to add gravity and physics to a game object. To make this, select our sphere, go in the inspector, click Add Component and search for Rigid Body. If you start the game, you will notice that the sphere has now gravity and physics. Let's try adding the rigid body in the cube too. You can decide to make this rigid body without gravity by turning off Use Gravity. And you will see that the cube won't have any gravity, but it still has physics when he touches another collider. If you want to discover other things by experimenting with components, you're free to do it. That's enough for this video. You have now learned something about the Unity interface and components. In the next video, I will introduce you the C# programming language. If you haven't done it yet, subscribe and click the bell to get notifications when a new video arrives. So guys, see you to the next video. Bye from niftyDuck.